After a series of rough breakups, Ramona Flowers decides she needs a fresh new start to get away from past drama. Instead of taking Gideon's advice and going to Toronto, she moved to Yokohama, Japan to make sure she gets away from it all. Not too long after finding a place to stay, she bumped into the rock-bottom dragon, Kasuga Ichiban. The two hit it off pretty well, with Ramona finding it very easy to talk with Ichiban about her past, allowing her to see the hero of Yokohama as someone closer than just a friend. Though, word of this development somehow reached Gideon Graves. Not wanting Ramona and Ichiban's relationship to advance any further, Gideon gathered Ramona's previous exes, and after one intense session of learning the Japanese language later, they challenged the dragon over Ramona. Not backing down, Ichiban gladly accepted to fight for his new friend's honor. So between the two, who will walk out on top in this explosive battle? Hey all, Narrow Triangle here. If you don't know who I am, my combos feature in Tom vs. Zig? But denizens of the Multiverse's Discord server know me as one of the moderators. Anyway, I'm here to represent my boy, Kasuga Ichiban, from the Like a Dragon series. Yeah, the series is just called Like a Dragon in the West now. That's what Ryuga Gotsuka literally means, deal with it. So, what does Ichiban bring to the table? Well, it's important to note that he sees the world differently compared to everyone else, seeing as he's a Chimibyo. Every weird video game thing that Ichi sees in the game, from enemies transforming, to the over-the-top animations, to the RPG elements, are all things Ichiban imagines in his head. Most of this isn't really real, except for when they fought a crane one time. But the world of Scott Pilgrim runs on video game logic. Characters turn into coins when they die, one-ups exist, and characters can level up. I feel like in this scenario, the RPG elements would actually be real, and Ichiban would be more in his element than he ever would be. What do I mean by this? Well, imagine if Ichi fights an opponent that's a little too strong for him. He can utilize the host job class to raise his stats and lower his foes, so that he'll always have the strength advantage. And who's to say he's going at this alone? He has a party of friends who are always there to back him up whenever he's in trouble. And it's not like having outside help is allowed. In the comics, Sex Bomb helped out Scott in fighting Matthew Patel, and Ramona helped Scott take down Roxy Richter in both incarnations. Speaking of which, let's see how well Ichi fares against the League of Evil Exes. With the league being made up of people who are really good at fighting, it shouldn't be a problem for someone like Ichiban. He's fought numerous fighters and brawlers who are skilled at fighting, such as martial arts masters, trained assassins, robots, to even Yakuza legends like Goro Majima, Taiga Saijima, and the one and only Kiryu Kazuma. If Matthew or Lucas try to swarm Ichi with their assists, well, Ichi is experienced with fighting entire groups of people before, and has always come out on top. Roxy and Gideon are pretty skilled with weapons, but Ichiban is pretty proficient with that baseball bat of his. I think the biggest threats Ichiban has to face are Todd and the twins, seeing as how they're the most supernatural of the Exes, with Todd being a literal psychic, and the twins being able to summon a fucking dragon. But even if his teammates aren't enough to even the odds, well, Ichiban can bring out the big guns. By which I mean either a giant orbital laser strike, or he can call any one of his pound mates for an extra strong attack. Like, for example, being able to call Saijima to do this shit.
Take this! See you in hell!
Yeah, but I believe Ichiban's best asset when it comes to this scenario is that, well, he's just a really nice guy. Time and time again throughout the game, he's just able to convince people he's fighting against to join his cause due to his kind nature and being able to talk things out. Thanks to Scott Pilgrim takes off when they're not obsessing over Ramona, all the Exes are pretty decent people with their own lives. I can totally see Ichiban just talking things out with Roxy, Lucas, and maybe even Gideon to just back down, and maybe convince the former two to join his side. Even in the Scott Pilgrim series, this is a possibility. After their fight in the comics, Lucas and Scott just talk things out, even after Lucas kicked Scott's ass. Of course, Ichiban can be too nice, and things have definitely not gone his way before, but with his friends by his side to steer him back on track, Ichiban's definitely going to be the one, leveling up his game.
Mr. Pilgrim! It is I, Matthew Patel.
You think this dweeb can defeat the 7 evil Exes? That's actually hilarious.
I'm Aqua, the creator of Versus Sensation Chucky vs. Ted, and I'm a moderator in the Discord server. And today I'm going to give my arguments for why Gideon Graves and his 6 lackeys could totally defeat Lesser Kiryu. For those not in the loop, the 7 evil exes are Ramona's old boyfriends and girlfriend who formed a league to combat anyone who tries to date Ramona. I'm going to cover the exes in order and how they would totally destroy their Yakuza opponent. Matthew Patel is quite the underdog here. If you really think about it, a musical kid putting up an actual fight, please. But hear me out. Patel has a wide advantage over Ichiban in terms of pure abilities. His levitation can keep Ichiban away from him, meaning any physical attacks probably won't touch him. Combined with his demon hipster chicks, who could summon fireballs, Ichiban is going to struggle hard even trying to touch Patel. Many would portray Patel as an idiot, which is semi-true, although he's only really dumb when it comes to anything but fighting or musicals. However, in Scott Pilgrim Takes Off, Patel was able to take over Gideon Graves' business and assets, being able to run it for a good bit, even if he despised it. If he did somehow make it past Patel, he would still more than likely be incredibly drained in terms of stamina, which would be even worse for Ichiban given his next opponent, movie star sensation Lucas Lee, who was played by the Captain America. So, Lee Sweep? Seriously though, Lucas is nothing to scoff at. He's very physically impressive. He looks like an absolute bodybuilder and was able to demolish Scott with simple hits. He would at least be comparable, if not similar to, Ichiban in physique. Lucas really becomes a challenge for Ichiban as soon as his stunt and doubles are involved, since they are all comparable to Lucas, one of which even played Dante in the Devil May Cry series. He's going to be a real challenge for Ichiban, especially since the only reason he lost to Scott was because Scott tricked him into an impossible trick, something Ichiban is unlikely to do given his track record of letting his emotions get in the way. Next up we have Todd Ingram, who is the most powerful of all the exes, due to being man's worst fear of all, a vegan. Due to his diet, Todd has a wide assortment of powers, like flight, telekinesis, and electric blasts, which is another Lucas Lee situation, if not worse, because both have been compared numerous times in physicality. He once casually dodged an attack from Scott, even though he was sitting and did not have any powers active. Ichiban would have to be very quick and precise when fighting Todd and have to dodge multiple attacks while doing so. It's not even like Todd has to use his vegan powers anyway, given that his super base can also shoot blasts. But let's say, for the sake of argument, Ichiban somehow surpassed Todd. He'd have to face the remaining exes. The next one is Roxanne Richter, a ninja with a sword in her belt. At any moment, Ichiban gets slashed to bits by her. Then there would be the twins, who are also expert martial artists, and in the movie, could also use music to create shockwaves. They also have an assortment of robots at their disposal, including lasers, missiles, force fields, and etc. The most important member in my eyes, and the mastermind behind it all, Gideon Graves is the final nail in the coffin for Ichiban. Gideon is a cunning genius, and one who would trip Ichiban up at any moment. Like when he used his power as a manager to take over Sex Bomb Mom in the movie or in the anime, where Gideon had several bombs planted at Matthew Patel's musical. Gideon is also excellent when it comes to fighting, using his katana and also levitation and telekinesis in the comics. He even once used shape-shifting in the video games. Abilities Ichiban would not be able to handle without severe luck. The only reason Scott won his final fight with Gideon was getting outside help with Ramona or his revives, since canonically in Scott Pilgrim, if you die, you just respawn. Not that it would apply here. A major criticism I can imagine for the Exes is their lack of experience and infighting. However, they make this all up thanks to their sheer numbers and wide variety of abilities. Ichiban is certainly a capable fighter, but the Exes have exactly what it takes to win Ramona once and for all.
You really think you stand a chance against an A-lister, bro? Some competition you are.
Okay, so, debating against Ichiban is one thing, but calling him Discount Kiryu is not gonna fly by me. Hell no! Time to show y'all why Ichiban's the hero, and the Exes are just a bunch of zeros. First of all, would Ichiban let his emotions get in his way? When it comes to personal things, they definitely influence his decision making, but not to the point where he'd fuck something important over. I think him being an emotional person is a point in favor for him. Since Ichiban's main motivator in life is helping people out, he'd be willing to fight tooth and nail for Ramona's sake, and even try to mend the broken relationships she's had with her exes. Ichi's always there for people. When someone has a chip on their shoulder, he's always willing to lend an ear. And it's completely possible for Ramona to patch things up with her exes like we see in Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. The fact that Ichiban doesn't like killing people makes it even more likely that the exes might join his side, in comparison to Scott, who was out for blood the entire time and never allowed the exes to express themselves. So Ichi's words might actually get through to them. But words definitely won't get through to the majority of the exes, so let's break down why Ichiban would totally kick their asses. Matthew being able to shoot out fireballs and summon demon hipster chicks is surprisingly nothing new to Ichiban. He's fought against his own teammate Nanba, who uses fire attacks, and he's battled against Goro Majima, who can inexplicably make doppelgangers of himself at a moment's notice. Lucas has a stunt team, but Ichi's fought against whole armies of people before. Lucas himself said he's nothing without his stunt team, so after they're gone, Lucas will just be another goon for Afroman to beat up. Todd is definitely one of the biggest obstacles for Ichi to overcome. Thanks to Todd's ability to read minds, he can likely counter most things Ichiban tries to throw at him. However, with multiple people ganging up on him, all capable of lowering his stats such as accuracy, defense, and power, I can see Ichiban and the team getting by, with difficulty of course. Roxy isn't anything new to Ichi. I mean, she's a blonde-haired nimble sword fighter who can teleport. Sound familiar? That's just Goro Majima! Ichiban and friends have fought against robots before, so the twins won't be bringing anything special to the debate. And then that leaves Gordon Goose. Admittedly, I underestimated Gideon in my first argument, but I have come prepared this time around. With the bodyguard job, Ichiban would be able to resist blade damage, leaving Gideon's primary weapon of choice to be pretty worthless. Gideon's final form is certainly impressive, but would he even use it? In 3 out of the 4 versions of the Scott Pilgrim story, he never brought it out, so it's kind of hard to argue it being standard for Gordon. If he did transform into it, like I said earlier, Ichiban can just orbital strike the motherfucker. Also, what is Gideon going to do with his massive wealth? Buy out the Dojima clan? Good luck, buddy, they're disbanded. And Ichiban is perfectly content with being jobless and homeless, as that's how he's left at the end of Like a Dragon. Back to your point about the Exes tiring out Ichiban, the Exes never fight Scott one after another like some kind of boss rush. He usually has a day or two between them, so that feels like a useless point. Though if we're talking about tiring out Ichiban, well, he's fought through entire floors of enemies without tiring, so a point of contention I think is coming is that Ichi's allies would even help him fight for Ramona, considering the odd stacks against them. But strengthening my argument from last time, they're all Ichiban's friends. They know Ichi has his heart in the right place and will continue to fight for their pal. Like, you know, how they continue fighting with Ichiban throughout the entire game? It's not like they joined him because they're all united against a common cause. Psycho had her issues resolved in the first few hours, and she still joined Ichi in taking down Arakawa. The only person who left Ichiban was Nanba, but that was only because he was trying to find out what happened to his brother, and he eventually joined back. And speaking of Ichiban's friends, let's really dive into what these guys can bring to the table, such as being able to buff party members, inflict statuses such as burns, stuns, and bleeds, debuff enemies, cast healing spells, and revive dead party members. And remember, Ichiban's the one who's commanding his friends during battle, meaning he's always coming up with plans and strategizing mid-fight. So overall, I really believe Ichiban and his friends will have what it takes to make it through another quest. Because unlike Ichi and friends, the Exes are the ones who are going to be feeling the heat.
You raise some fair points, but I still think Gideon has what it takes to win this battle. First, your point about Matt, Pat, and the rest of the Exes doesn't add up to me. While, yes, Ichiban has fought those with similar abilities to Matt and Lucas, Matt can still keep his distance, thanks to his demons, and come up with any sneak attack or any other sort of strategy. He can also use soul attacks in general to counter any attack Ichiban or his teammates throw, given how he used a similar ability in his fight with Gideon, forming a blade out of his back. As for Lucas, I can concede that Ichi has fought doubles before, but he still struggled within that fight. Given how many more doubles there are at play here, any of his friends would probably be too busy fighting the duplicates. Todd is going to wipe the floor with Ichi in my humble opinion. You say his teammates can help even the odds, which I disagree with. In his boss fight in the video game, Todd can shapeshift his arm into a massive Tetsuo-like appendage, which would be devastating for anyone in Ichiban's party. It's not like he would be prepared for this either, given how wide and different Todd's powers are. I also don't buy him being able to outsmart Todd. While yes, Scott outsmarted him, it was under extreme circumstances due to him being thrown close to a coffee machine. Ichiban would still have to find a way to feed Todd anything non-vegetarian to get rid of his powers. I can concede on Roxy, although I think she would still put up a major fight against Kazuga. As for the twins, as much as I agree and can concede that Ichi has fought similar things, it's so much all at once for him and his party to handle successfully. Robots, lasers, dragons, and more are so many in sheer numbers, especially when two twins are doing it. The party is competent for sure, but again, it's just a lot to handle. You brought up a great point when it comes to Gideon's main form of attack with the sword. However, I may have been saving something. In the graphic novels, Gideon has an innate ability called the Glow, which can passively influence his opponents, which he used on Scott and Ramona to fight with each other. If he were to use this on Ichi's party, then it's over for him, since he's either going to lose allies or even fight them, giving Gideon the perfect opportunity to strike and kill Ichiban at any moment. Lastly, I wanted to address the team head on. While yes, they can revive each other and inflict statuses, so can the evil Exes. In the game, you can get coins that can be used to upgrade stats, replenish health, or even buy items that revive upon death. So they can definitely match most, if not all, of the status effects used. While I still think Ichiban and his party are incredible fighters, the evil Exes are too much for them and can match most, if not all, attacks used. Kazuga will put up a great fight, but Gideon and his lackeys have the guts to take this match.
Time for the real game to begin.
The goose is loose. Honk honk fuckers.
Now that the debates have been set, it's up for you to decide. Should the rock bottom dragon come out on top, or should the 7 evil Exes take Ramona for themselves?
Be sure to join the Galaxy Video Discord server, or comment in that Australia box down below if you want us to see your prediction. If you want more from the both of us, you can catch me at my own YouTube channel.
And you can catch me at my Twitter, AQUA6100, or my YouTube, AQUA Studios. Thanks!
Until next time.